Welcome to planning your novel. If you're here, you likely have a love of stories and want to tell your own. But it can be a challenging and expansive goal, whether you're writing a short story or a vast saga. All too often, prospective writers become overwhelmed and abandon their projects, ending or delaying their dreams to be a professional author. I want to help you plan your novel so you're ready to dive into your draft without becoming overwhelmed. I'm currently working on my debut novel, and I've spent years honing my skills by writing novellas, short stories, and more. I've studied every book you can find on the craft of writing and tried hundreds of different techniques to improve my work. And out of it all, the most important thing I've learned is that having a good plan is incredibly helpful for starting and sticking with a story. In this series, we'll be crafting a portfolio of material which will help us develop our novels and serve as references for while we draft. These techniques and materials we'll be using are based on the three most important elements of story: character, plot, and setting. You'll see these elements in action as we develop a sample story together and practice them as you build your own. As we get going, I want to set some expectations for this series. My favorite genre to read and write is fantasy, so this is the genre I'll be using for most of my examples and my sample story. Fantasy relies very strongly on fundamentals of storytelling, so no matter what genre you're writing, this should be helpful for you. But keep in mind that depending on what you're writing, there might be elements that we don't discuss here, like the ins and outs of crafting a red herring for a mystery plot. So you may need to do some additional learning to fill in those genre-specific elements. With that out of the way, before we can develop character, setting, plot, or anything else, we need to have a premise. A premise is the absolute basic idea we're writing about, and we can sum it up in a premise statement. In Percy Jackson, the premise statement is that a modern New York boy learns he's the son of a Greek god, and he goes on various quests to save Olympus. In Game of Thrones, the premise statement is that a kingdom is in the midst of political turmoil, with most of the focus on the members of one family trying to succeed in various challenges across the kingdom. We can see in these premise statements the beginnings of our three elements. We see characters like a boy who's the son of a god and a family. We see settings like modern New York and a kingdom. And we see plots like saving Olympus and overcoming various challenges. These aren't very specific, but they don't have to be yet. Today, we'll explore different techniques to generate interesting premise statements like these. The first one we're going to look at is get bored. Then we'll come back to adapt and synthesize and play with prompts. The first technique for inspiration is as easy as it sounds. Let yourself get bored. To help you get started, here's what I suggest. Number 1, location. Go somewhere you can be alone, with some things which might be interesting to observe, but nothing distracting. I like going to a coffee shop, a park, or a library. If you can't go out to try this technique, it's okay to do it in your house, maybe looking out a window or sitting on the porch. I find it easier if you're somewhere unfamiliar and don't have potential distractions like a video game console or a computer. But I know not everyone else will have that place that they can go on their own to get away. Number 2, remove immediate distractions. It's okay if other people are around, but don't go with anybody like friends or family that you would be tempted to sit around and talk to. Leave your phone off. Don't allow yourself to scroll, watch videos, read, or play games. I wouldn't even put music on because I like to be able to listen as well as observe. But you might find it helpful for staying focused and even getting yourself in the right mindset. So, if you want to, go ahead. Number 3, sit. That's it. As you sit, you might find yourself doing a couple of things. First, you might be observing the things and people around you. You might notice the tense dynamic of a couple on a date, or the shenanigans of young kids as they try to feed the ducks, or the mysterious door into your creepy neighbor's basement. Second, you might be reflecting on memories and experiences in your own life. Your mind might wander to current worries, your proudest or happiest moments, or embarrassing conversations which you wish you could redo. And with either of these or both, you'll likely end up doing number 3, imagining. What's going on with that couple? What's behind that door? What would you say if you could do that conversation over? It's okay if it takes a little while to get here. We're very used to filling our time with content, media, and other things. For a while, you might only be able to think about how antsy and bored you are, how much other stuff you have to do. That'll pass as you get used to filling the space in your own head with something on your own. Number 4, let your thoughts run wild. Follow each one to its ridiculous, most crazy end, and then go back and follow another one that far. Don't be afraid to get a little emotional. If you're imagining that couple is having a dramatic breakup and it reminds you of your own recent heartbreak, it's okay to lean into those feelings. I've gotten deep enough into imagining that I get riled up or sad or excited. Consider what makes these feelings so impactful so you can identify how you might make your writing inspire such emotions in your readers. Number 5, take notes. You might find it helpful to write down your thoughts in a notebook as you go to help you develop them and so you can be sure to remember everything. Or you might want to imagine uninterrupted and wait to take notes on your ideas until you're ready to be done. That begs the question, how long are you supposed to sit around and imagine for? Well, I'd suggest starting with about half an hour. Not so long that you feel like you're wasting your day away, but long enough that you really get bored and are forced to engage those imagination muscles. If you keep doing this, you'll get good at it. You might be inclined to start doing this for longer, even an hour or more, to really follow lots and lots of ideas. You'll also be able to tap into this imagination in shorter, spare moments. While you're in class waiting for the bell to ring, while you're at a restaurant waiting for your friend to arrive. Waiting is an excellent time to practice this technique. Once you're at a stage where you can get into it rather quickly, we're always tempted to find something to do. Someone to talk to, something to look at or play or listen to on our phones. But this is some time we can be using as writers, so why not use it? I've done this myself, and I can attest that if you just let yourself get bored, creative things will come. As an assignment for a creative writing class, I once had to go and practice boredom every single week as homework. And honestly, I was churning out ideas. One more thing that you might want to try is going to the same place regularly. For my particular assignment, we were specifically asked to get bored in the same place every time. I picked a park, and I was able to watch how it changed every week from January to May. What the animals did throughout the winter, how the snow and ice would melt and come back and melt again, and more. I came one week to find that a walkway over the duck pond had been broken, and I watched the process over several weeks of it being fixed to be ready for springtime. This sense of progression and change can help inspire new ideas that you wouldn't get by only going somewhere once. Whatever way you decide to practice it, getting bored will open your mind up to creativity and wonder. It might feel weird for a while, but give it a shot and see what you think after you've finished. Technique 2, adapt and synthesize. Have you ever seen a movie or read a book and thought, ugh, I wish they'd done this instead of that? I have. For example, once when I was watching The Fellowship of the Ring, I asked my partner, why didn't Tolkien have Arwen join the Fellowship? We've already seen how cool and powerful she is, and it would be great to see her interact with Aragorn more. Or any other character in the series. And that simple question led us to watching the entire series with that in mind. If Arwen joined the Fellowship, would she replace any other characters? What plot lines would she take part in? How would she interact with characters we've never seen her talk to, like Éowyn? How would the entire story change with just that one ripple? Whenever you get this kind of itch from a story, follow it. You'll find yourself creating so many new, fun ideas from the stories you already love, or transforming stories you don't love into ones you do. So many famous works come from adaptation and transformation. Even Tolkien himself did this in Lord of the Rings. It's common knowledge that he came up with the Ents, the living trees, in response to his disappointment in Shakespeare's Macbeth. In the play, 3 witches prophesy that Macbeth will be defeated when, quote, Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane, which seems impossible, so he believes he'll never be defeated. But it does come true. Macbeth's enemies disguise their troops with tree branches so they can make their march on the castle less obvious. But Tolkien was disappointed that the trees didn't literally come to Dunsinane, a fairly reasonable thing to happen in a play with witches and magic. So in his play, he had the Ents march on and destroy Sauron's tower to give him the satisfaction of seeing the scene as he had wanted it. Beyond just adapting and changing a story we love, we can also synthesize or combine elements from several stories we enjoy. We might narrow in on one element that comes up in lots of similar stories we love and decide to write our own version of that. If you love a classic mystery, consider all the different stories that you've read in that genre and how smaller pieces of them might combine. What if this book, where the detective solves a mystery while everyone is on a boat cruise, combined with this one, where the detective solves a mystery which happened decades ago? You'd get an entirely new mystery based on a core story idea you already love. Other times, we might wish we could find a story that combines aspects of several different ones to create the perfect one for us. We can take our desire to see these elements that don't typically go together in one story and create that for ourselves. For example, if you love supernatural plots, sci-fi aliens, and historical settings, I don't know of any existing works that include all of those things. So, write one yourself. How would aliens from Venus or ghosts affect the world in historical settings like World War I or the Roman Empire? This synthesis, whether you're combining similar or very different works, is why you'll so often see stories marketed as perfect for fans of X and Y. The author is telling you what they wanted to combine and play with. Let's try out adapting and synthesizing together. I'm gonna think about a story that I love, the fairy tale Sleeping Beauty. How might I want to change this story? Well, one thing I don't like is how little the princess actually gets to do. She just falls asleep and the rest of the story happens around her. So maybe I can explore different ways to have the princess more active in the plot. Now, I'm gonna synthesize a bit. I want to combine ideas from 2 stories which share a common element. Since I'm already thinking of Sleeping Beauty, I'll think of some other princess stories that might mesh with it in interesting ways. How about The Legend of Zelda? It's a video game series, not books or movies, but it's still a story I can get inspiration from. I feel the same way about Sleeping Beauty as I do about Princess Zelda in a lot of these games. I wish we could play as her more often, or at least spend time with her when we play as Link. It stinks that in a series all about her, we don't often actually see her. But that reminds me of the game Spirit Tracks, where a ghost version of Zelda is Link's companion while her body is possessed. That way she can play her usual role as damsel in distress, but also get to interact with the audience throughout the story. I always thought that was a clever idea, and it pairs well with my existing wish that Sleeping Beauty could be more involved. Maybe I could write a version of Sleeping Beauty where she's a kind of ghost too, so she can participate in the rest of the story while she's still asleep. Whether you adjust, iterate, or combine, looking at the stories you love should help you come up with interesting ideas. Try it out and see what you put together. Technique 3, play with prompts. There are so many prompts that have been created to help writers come up with ideas. Like a prompt for an essay, these ask you, write something about this topic. By playing with different prompts or combining several, you can come up with really fun ideas. You can buy books filled with prompts, like 642 Things to Write About by the organization 826 Valencia. When I was in high school, I ran a creative writing club, and I used prompts from this book and others from a series for our free writing time. It was great practice to write about things we otherwise never would have, and some of us spun our short responses off into bigger stories. It was especially fun to share how we all interpreted the same ideas differently. Another fun tool you can use is story dice. These are dice with different pictures on each side. When you roll the dice, you have to write a story using all of those elements. If you want more of a challenge, you can then re-roll and integrate the new elements into the story you've already started. You can buy packs of story dice like these, Rory's Story Cubes. I have a general set. These are the black dice and a fantasy-themed one, the pink dice. Mine have images like a footprint, a lightning bolt, or a tiara. Or you can go to the Story Dice website. Here, you can click to roll 5 or 9 dice to get a variety of elements. You can't separate them into specific genres, but a lot of the elements can be used in a variety of genres. On my roll, I got a ghost, a camera, a car, a guitar, and a snake. What might I be able to write about that? Well, the ghost and the camera make me think of paranormal investigators, people who go to spooky places to look for ghosts. The snake suggests a setting, maybe somewhere that would have snakes. I first thought of a ghost town in the Old West. Maybe that's because the guitar reminded me of a cowboy's banjo. For the car, I'm thinking maybe the ghost hunters try to leave, but something goes wrong with their car and they are stuck. They have to spend a night in the deserted old saloon, dodging snakes and cowboy ghosts until they can go get help. Just from these 5 random dice, I have a basic premise with characters, a setting, and plot. One more online tool I love for generating ideas is springhole.net. This site has tons of generators for characters, settings, plots, and more. They get really specific with generators for different genres, character types, all sorts of things. I found one generator, How You Got Your Superpowers, which I decided to try out. The prompt I liked the most was, you got your powers from a piece of alien technology you found while studying the bottom of the sea. That gives me tons of ideas I can work with. My character is studying the ocean, so they might be some kind of expert marine scientist. Or maybe they're an archaeologist diving for artifacts. The alien tech in the ocean suggests interesting questions too. What kind of technology is it, and what does it do? How did it get here? How long has it been here? What aliens put it here, and are they good or evil or something else? Again, by considering this prompt, I've already got the start for character, setting, and plot. So take a shot with some prompts yourself. Explore and see what prompts can inspire for you. It's okay to try a couple different ones to find something you really like, but don't be afraid to dive into a prompt that feels weird or not like something you'd ever usually write. I've never written about cowboy ghosts or alien-powered superheroes, but try using out these unusual ideas. I found that I really like some of them. As you let yourself get bored, adapt and synthesize, and play with prompts, I know you'll find some ideas that you really like. Try out these techniques and use your favorite results to develop a premise statement. Sum up your story concept in 1 or 2 sentences, hitting on character, setting, and plot. Once you have your premise statement, meet me in the next video to start exploring character. I'm so excited to be sharing this series with you, and I would greatly appreciate any support you're willing to give. Please do comment your thoughts, like or share the video if you've enjoyed, and subscribe if you're interested in upcoming videos in this series or other topics I plan on covering. I love writing and reading poetry and fantasy fiction, reading and watching mysteries, discussing the ins and outs of both creative and academic writing, pop culture, and tons of other topics. So any of that is liable to come up in future videos, and more. I'm also open to hearing ideas from you on interesting things to research and yap about. With all that said, thank you again, and have a lovely rest of your day.